Hey, welcome back. This section is 5.2, find an equation of a line, and this is not in our packet. Okay, so 5.2 has us look at point-slope form. So this is a little bit different than slope-intercept form, because in slope-intercept form, you could identify the slope and intercept, and in point-slope form, what you can identify is the point and the slope. All right, so point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m, which is our slope, times the quantity x minus x1. And the x1, y1, that is a point. Okay, so the equation contains that point somewhere. So for example 1, use point-slope form to write an equation where m equals -3 and it contains the point -4, 2. Okay, go ahead and try that. All you do is you just stick in the m, stick in the x1, the y1. Do not start simplifying, okay? Just substitute it in. Go ahead and try it. Hit play when you're ready. Okay, so point-slope form is y minus y1. What is our y1? So here's our point xy, so that's x1, y1 that contains that point. So it's going to be y minus 2 equals our slope, m, is -3 times the quantity x minus x1 is -4. It's so tempting to want to go ahead and simplify, but this really is our final answer, okay? Because technically, if you started to simplify like this plus, and then you would start going crazy, then you would start distributing that -3, you would add the 2. That's not what we want to do. Even if this was a plus here, look at that. It would technically no longer be in point-slope form because point-slope form says that is a minus. Okay, so you'll always leave it as the minus. You don't start simplifying. Got it? All right, now is where we can start going crazy with the simplifying because it says now write the equation in slope-intercept form. So now I do want you to start simplifying, okay? So let's start by rewriting what we put up above. So that is point-slope form. Now go ahead and simplify this. Go ahead and do all the simplifying to get it into slope-intercept form. Okay, so take just a minute, hit pause if you need to. Okay, so the x minus the -4, we can combine that, so we get x plus 4. Distribute that -3, add the 2, and we get y equals -3x minus 10. For the next one, I have check that the point, so when we're talking about the point, let me write it down from up above. That point was -4, 2. Let me double check. -4, 2, sure was. Okay, cool. So now we're going to check that the point satisfies the slope-intercept form. So the slope-intercept form that we figured out was y equals -3x minus 10. So to check that that satisfies, that's where you're going to go ahead and plug in your x and your y, and that's where you're going to put that question mark because you don't know if it's a true statement quite yet. You hope it is, but you don't quite know yet. So go ahead and hit pause, press play when you're ready. All right, what'd you get? So I plugged in the 2 for the y, the -4 for the x. I have 2, does that equal -3 times -4 is a positive 12. Minus that 10 ends up being 2 equals 2, so it did check out. Very cool. Okay, let's do 2 more examples. Okay, they're kind of big though, but let's try them. For this next one, write the equation in slope-intercept form. And I gave you m and I give you a point. So m is negative 2.07, containing the point negative 4.73, comma, negative 9.60. And you can see I've started to write out, there's two different options, okay? So try to figure out how you want to go about doing this, okay? So just think about it. What method might you want to try? There's two main methods. Option one, we're learning the point slope form, right? So option one, if you want to, you can solve this by starting in point slope form. If that sounds like something you are interested in, go ahead and give that a try. If you want to try a different way, you could start, if this makes more sense with you, starting in the actual slope-intercept form that it asks for. Okay, and it is totally personal preference. Okay, so whichever way makes the most sense to you, go ahead and write down what just the first step would be. Only the first step, because I don't want you to get too far if you have a little bit of an error. Okay, so only the first step, hit pause, write that down, come back to make sure that you're on the right track. Okay, so if you chose option one, starting in point slope form, you should have for your first step, y minus y1 is negative 9.60 equals m, which is negative 2.07, times the quantity x minus x1 is a negative 4.73. If you started with slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, you would borrow that point y, okay, so the y was negative 9.60. You would plug in the m of negative 2.07, and we're going to use that x of negative 4.73. We don't know b yet, so that's why we're going to borrow that point and use that slope to go find out what b is. So that should be your first step. Okay, go ahead and hit pause again and just only do just the very next step, okay? Just one more step and then hit play again. Okay, so if you were in the point slope form, option one, you'd start getting rid of some of these minuses for your next step. So you'd have y plus a 9.60 equals a negative 2.07 times that x plus 4.73. If you were over here in the slope-intercept form, you'll go ahead and multiply right now. So negative 2.07 times negative 4.73 ends up being 9.7911 plus b. Don't round that yet, okay? Because it will throw off your answer at the end. Save all rounding to the very, very end, okay, in everything. Save it all, okay? Go ahead, whichever option you picked, go ahead and totally finish off that problem. When you think you've got it, hit play again, and let's see how you did. So continuing on with option one, the next step is to go ahead and distribute that negative 2.07. So you'd have negative 2.07x, and then negative 2.07 times that 4.73 ends up being a minus 9.7911. Again, do not round until the very, very end. To finish off this problem, you'd want to get the y by itself, so you would subtract the 9.60, and you would end up with y equals a negative 2.07x minus 9.3911. So that is in slope-intercept form. Now, if you started in slope-intercept form, you're still trying to figure out what b is. So let's go ahead and get b by itself by subtracting this 9.7911 from both sides. When we do negative 9.60 and subtract negative 9.7911, we get negative 19.3911 equals b. Now we're trying to put it in slope-intercept form, right? So that's y equals mx plus b. So y equals m, our slope back from the beginning was negative 2.07. X, and then with our y-intercept, we would have a minus 19.3911. And there we have it. You can see that no matter which option you started with, that they are both ending with the same answer in slope-intercept form. All right, let's do one more for today. For this last one, I have used point-slope form to find an equation that has the points 2, -6, and 5, -4. Then rewrite in slope-intercept form. So what do we need? We need a point and we need the slope. You can choose either point that you want. If you choose 5, -4, that's going to be the point that I pick. So if you want to follow along your math with me, it does get kind of messy with some fractions, so you might want to do that. But if you really want to try the other one, or if you want to even try it 2 different ways, that's totally cool. You'll get the same answer. But if you do want to follow along with me, I'm going to pick the 5, -4. And then we need slope, but they didn't give it to us. How are we going to find that? Is there a way we can find the slope? Hey, we have 2 points. Remember that? Remember slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Yeah, so go ahead and hit pause. What I want you to do in this very first step, all I want you to do is find the slope and then just rewrite that very, very first line before you start doing any work. Okay, let's just make sure that we can substitute in the slope and that point. Go ahead and hit play when you're ready to go. Okay, so the slope, y2 minus 1, 1, so I'm going to have a -4 minus, that's a -6 over a 5 minus 2. So I get -4 plus 6 over 3. So I'm getting 2/3. So I'm going to write 2/3 in for my slope. And for my point, I told you that I was going to use that 5, -4. So let me write that in. So the y is -4. So I have y minus -4 equals my slope is 2/3. X minus the x1 is 5. Okay, so I have my slope. I have my point. Now let's go ahead and simplify. Okay, so you're going to make the minus the negative be a plus, and then you're going to try to distribute that 2/3. And like I said, it's going to start to get a little bit messy. Just see how far you can get. And then when you want to check in with what I have, go ahead and hit play. So the first thing is we have a y minus a -4 is going to be a y plus 4 equals, distribute that 2/3. So we have 2/3 x minus 2/3 times 5. I'm going to write times 5 over 1 just so I can see it as a fraction. Okay, so now I have y plus 4 equals 2/3 x minus 2 times 5 is 10 over 3 times 1 is 3. We want to get the y by itself, so we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. So we have y equals 2/3 x minus 10 over 3 minus, now this 4, we're going to have to combine that with this 10 over 3, right? So I'm going to rewrite it right now as 4 over 1. Okay, it's because I need to subtract that 4, so I'm just going to write it as 4 over 1. Now, in order to subtract my fractions, what do I need? I need a common denominator. Okay, so y equals 2/3 x minus 10 over 3. Let's change this 4 over 1. We need to figure out between this 3 here and this 1, what do I need to multiply by in order to get that common denominator? That 3, right? So go ahead and put in the 3. Now, can I just randomly multiply the bottom? I cannot, but I can scale up my fraction by multiplying it by 1 by way of writing 3 over 3, because anything over itself is 1. So I can do that, right? I'm just going to blow up this second fraction. So now I have y equals 2/3 x minus 10 over 3. I'm going to put the minus here. 4 times 3 is 12 over 3. We're almost there. So I have y equals 2/3 x. So I have a minus 10 minus another 12. Do you see that? A minus, let me draw a little arrow. A minus 10 on top with a minus 12, because they do have that common denominator of 3, right? So a minus with a negative is going to make it an even bigger negative, right? It's going to be a minus negative 10 minus 12, 22, over that common denominator of 3. Okay, and that's as far as we can go. We did it. Another awesome job. Well done. I hope you have an amazing day.